Welcome to What the Hill is Happening, City on a Hill's monthly informational and formational podcast. This podcast is where you can come to find out what is happening at our church and the why behind the happenings. Well, hello everybody, and welcome back into another episode of What the Hill is Happening. This is the December issue, and we are very much looking forward to a season of Advent, a season to remember why we celebrate Christmas, the busiest time of the year by far.
Yeah.
It's interesting, Resurrection Sunday, or as the pagans call it, Easter, is one of those things that is obviously like the Super Bowl of the church world, but I feel like, and we even do a Palm Sunday service, I feel like it's like all concentrated in one week, really in like a couple of days, like Good Friday and Easter Sunday, right?
Yeah.
Whereas Christmas is certainly very important and very big. We talk about the incarnation, we talk about the arrival of the Messiah, and incredibly important aspect of our faith. But it feels so much longer because it's like the moment after Thanksgiving, basically. It's Christmas season. And everyone flips to that mode. And like culturally, people flip to that mode. Culturally, there's not like a big Easter culture. You have, like the Easter bunny that people do or whatever, but it's not like a thing that dominates the month.
Yeah.
And with Christmas, like the lights go up on the houses and the decorations come out and the trees go up and the songs change. And like there's that one radio station that like flips to like entire Christmas music the entire month, right? And it I love it. I think it's awesome. Culturally, it's awesome, but it just feels in some ways bigger because it's like it takes up so much real estate on the calendar, and I'm here for it.
Well, it's even like an international thing because I was talking to Kelsey earlier, and in Brazil, it's huge. Like in the month of October you can see the decorations out and the lights are out and the Santa Clauses.
Yeah.
Even though it's hot in Brazil, there's no snow.
Poor Santa.
He still wears
just
a hat.
Suffering, sweaty already. Shout out Aaron Nelson. So all that to say, we're approaching that time. We've got a lot of great things happening. Of course, in the November issue, we talked a little bit about the Women's Christmas Party. We did that because, the Women's Christmas Party drops the very first week of December. And so we wanted to have about a month of extra time for people to be thinking about it and planning on being there for it. But the month still has a lot of things happening. And one of the things that we started doing last year, we'll do again this year, albeit a little bit differently, a little bit better, is an Advent series. Last year, our Advent series, I went back and checked, was 6 weeks long. That was a mistake. It may have been great for y'all, and it was really great for me for about 4 of those weeks. But I felt like it ran its course quicker than the length of it. It was a little bit of an interesting year calendar-wise because both Christmas morning and New Year's morning fell on a Sunday, and I knew that. I knew that we'd go down to one service, and so 2 of those 6 services were kind of condensed down, and so it was the right call. I have no regrets, but this particular year, with the way the calendar falls, we're doing 4 weeks of Advent, and we're going to, rather than, last year I had kind of my own sort of like vision for where the series would go and the things that we would touch on. This year we're doing a little more of a traditional approach to Advent with the 4 traditional themes of Advent, right? Hope, peace, joy, and love. And of course we have an Advent candle from last year somewhere, and maybe we'll see it come out. I'm not real sure. We haven't gotten that far. But thematically, we are going to be doing those themes, one of those each week. And one of the things that I'm real excited to talk about today, and I brought you on because you're helping with a couple of aspects of this, actually, is the Advent packet that we're going to be giving to our church members starting, hopefully, the last Sunday of November. Which if you're watching, by the time you're watching this, you'll know, did we deliver? Is it in your hands? We are obviously filming this just before Thanksgiving, and so still in the throes of getting it all together. But we are planning on a packet for Advent that the vision for it is that it will account for all of the major activities in the sermon and in the Bible study each week for 4 weeks. So week 1 is centered on hope. You'll have a Bible study that you'll do in Life Bible study if you're a part of one. If you're not a part of a Life Bible study, A, go to one.
Sign up.
Yeah, but B, you don't have to be in a Life Bible study to utilize the material. It's there for you regardless of whether or not you're in a group. But I've also asked some of our Bible study teachers, of whom RJ is one, to write a devotional for that particular theme for the week. And we have 2 per week. So every week you'll have in your packet, and it's one single packet. So week 1, you'll have a Bible study, you'll have a place for sermon notes, and you'll have 2 devotionals, and all of that is centered around, in week 1, hope, and then in week 2, peace, and then week 3, joy, and then love. I've also incorporated kind of another theme that attaches to all of that, which is a Christmas carol that highlights that particular theme. So, for example, in hope, we have O Little Town of Bethlehem as the first Christmas carol that sort of encapsulates that week. And there's that great line in there, our hopes and fears through all the years are met in thee or found in thee tonight. And, the idea of hope and fear being found in this child that is born is just very profound to me.
Yeah.
Week 2, Away in a Manger, is the kind of the carol that thematically unifies everything. And the word peace is not in that song, but the description of the stars, shining down on this like peaceful scenery where the Lord Jesus is asleep and he awakes and there's no crying. And, it's just a very peaceful image.
Yeah.
Week 3, of course, how could we talk about joy without incorporating joy to the world? And so that's sort of the thematic song there. And then the last one is Silent Night. And the reason I chose Silent Night on the last one is twofold. One, there is an aspect of love in that song that's very pronounced, very explicit. But 2, that's the song that we do the candle lighting in on Christmas Eve with James. And I felt like that would be a really good song to highlight that theme, and it would give it some special significance when we get to that point in the service.
Yeah, absolutely.
So talk a little bit about, remind me, I don't even remember which one you're doing.
I'm doing Love.
Love, yeah, okay, so you're doing the last week. So yeah, talk to me a little bit about what your thoughts are on that.
Well, I don't want to give it away too much, and then I have a question for you, actually.
Please.
But I'm going to try to center it around the idea of Jesus's commands. So love God and love your neighbor.
Yeah.
And at first I was thinking about that passage because when I first read it, I didn't really understand where he took that from. Obviously now I know it comes from Deuteronomy 6:5 and Leviticus 19:18. But I also found out that when God was giving the law to Moses for him to relay it to the people, the first set of laws that was given was actually laws that were according or related to how man relates to God. And then the second part is laws that are on how we are supposed to relate to each other.
Yes.
So basically what Jesus did was he summarized it.
Which is why he says,
love God and love your neighbor.
And in this you fulfill the whole law and prophets.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I'm going to center it around that and try to cram in as much as possible because, devotional is also supposed to be a little shorter.
Yeah.
But yeah, just kind of, going back into the Old Testament and seeing how that all started what we have now, which is love, and which is the most important thing, right? Paul says, without love, we're nothing.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
My question though is, so I think this was very helpful to me as a member of the church last year. I think you kind of touched on that. But also, I think we have so many new people that might not quite understand this, and with so many different backgrounds today. I was talking to a lady at the trunk or treat who actually grew up Catholic and then recently got baptized and then started coming to our church, and now she's a member and everything. And to me, growing up, Advent and this word was very tied to Catholic. Roots.
Yeah.
And so how do we unpack that as Protestant evangelical Christians today?
Yeah. Well, first of all, we're Catholics, so I'm just kidding. So Advent is a practice that is often associated with Catholicism, but it's not explicitly Catholic, right? And it is practiced in other traditions as well outside of evangelical Protestant, which even that is like difficult for some people to really identify as, because historically there's like a whole debate over whether or not Baptists are Protestants. I understand both sides of it. I think it's sort of missing the forest for the trees. We are Protestant in some way. I mean, our tradition comes from separatism, right? English separatism, which is very Protestant in nature. But we are not from the magisterial Reformation, and so traditional Protestantism. We come more out of a separatist group that's influenced by that. But all that to say, all Advent means, it comes from the Latin word adventus, which is a word that just means arrival. And so when we think about what Advent signifies, it signifies the arrival of the Messiah, who is born of a virgin, who in all of the fulfilling of the Old Testament comes at the least expected time, ushering in hope and light to a dark world, and all the themes that Isaiah 9 and several other Old Testament passages pretty explicitly dictate. Yeah. On the note of Old Testament, you mentioned a moment ago, and I think this is really fascinating. I was reading this today, actually, that there are 12 chapters in the New Testament where the Old Testament is not referenced. 12.
Wow.
In the entire New Testament.
I did not know that.
Yes. Every other chapter has some reference to the Old Testament.
Wow.
So that tells you how profoundly important the Old Testament is to New Testament thought.
Do you know what they are?
I don't.
I'm guessing like the letter to Philemon or...
No, I mean, maybe. I don't know. I hadn't really honestly thought through it. There's a ton of Old Testament in Revelation. There may be a chapter or two in there where it's not, because there's a lot of very strange imagery that seems to be forward facing, not backward facing. So I imagine there's maybe one or two in there. I don't know. I do not know the answer to that.
Let's look into it.
I would. Yeah. We'll go on a journey. So I'm real excited. I think the idea of just giving people as they come in a packet that serves them for the 4 weeks of Advent, that supplies them a place to take notes for the sermon, that supplies them a Bible study that they can carry into Life Bible Study and study together, a couple of devotionals, a song that is got some meaning to that theme as well, kind of all built into one. I just think is going to be really cool for our church. I'm really looking forward to it.
I love the fact that we get to, like I said, growing up in a place where this was mostly a Catholic thing, we get to take some of these things and learn from church history and, even church culture back in the day and apply it today to what we do. Not from the perspective of, we have to do it as a, obligation, but like, let's focus and put our hearts into thinking about the birth of Christ the whole month.
I agree. I think it's going to be really, really special. So if you have not planned on being here for December, hopefully you have, but if not, then deeply reconsider your plans and be a part of what we're doing. Of course, Christmas Eve is a part of this Advent series, and here in a moment, we're going to have a special section of this particular podcast dedicated to that morning, because there's some really cool stuff happening in it. But do plan on coming, invite people. This is a very, very guest-friendly series. I like to think that everything we do is guest friendly. It's certainly not seeker sensitive. I'm teaching the Bible. I don't hold back. If you've been around, you know that. But I like to think I do it in a way that is evangelistic and explanatory, such that a person who doesn't know the Bible isn't going to feel totally lost the whole time. And so, what a great time to come. Of course, the worship center will be decorated. The foyer will be decorated. It will feel like a different season, so to speak. And then once we're done with that, New Year's Eve, after Advent is over with, that's the first week back, we'll jump back into Mark. And
let's go.
Yeah, it's going to be sweet. So
we'll go immediately.
Oh, look what he did. It was so good. Coming up next, we're going to bring in worship pastor Kelsey Barker to talk about a wonderful, wonderful Christmas Eve service that we are affectionately behind the scenes referring to as Worship in the Round Yon Virgin Mother and Child. Stick around. Well, welcome back into the next and final segment of this podcast.
It's a two-parter, just like the great game of football.
It's
two halves.
It's a Longhorn. It's a Longhorn podcast. 2 points with a lot of bull in between. Am I right? Classic.
I did not remember that joke. Where you're going with that.
That's the old preacher 2-point sermon.
Oh man,
2-point sermon. How are you doing?
Man, I'm hanging in there. A lot has happened since the last time we joined each other on What the Hill is Happening.
Most notably, the Texas Rangers are now World Series champions.
They won the whole thing.
Unreal.
It's kind of crazy.
They went to the big show, and they took it all.
They did. I think the state of Arizona will never be the same.
Ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Poor guys.
Yeah.
Not their year. It was our year.
It was our year.
Our year.
Finally.
How do you feel about the victory?
I feel like it has been several weeks since they have won, and I just last night rewatched Game 7 of the ALCS.
Ooh, that was a great game.
It was a good game.
That was a good one. I went out that night that we won the whole thing, and I bought this keychain.
Nice.
And a shirt. Actually, I bought us both shirts.
You did.
No, it was a very nice time.
It was a great time.
And it's been fun this season, and but it's not really what this segment's about.
It's not as fun as what Christmas Eve is going to be like.
Ooh man, Christmas Eve. You know what's interesting, Derek? Usually in the past, Christmas Eve has been a evening event, like a 5 p.m., 6 p.m.
True.
I've heard that things could be different this year.
They are different, yeah. And it's not unprecedented. We actually have done this before 7 or 8 years ago, the last time Sunday fell on Christmas Eve, and or Christmas Eve fell on a Sunday. Probably the better way of saying that. We feel like, it's a lot to ask for people to come to evening events on Christmas Eve regardless.
That's true.
And when we're already there on Sunday morning, there's no reason why we can't just program the morning to be a special kind of service.
Yeah.
And the great thing about it, I think, is that historically, when we've done Christmas Eve services in the past, they're typically just music. There's a couple of little maybe elements of scripture reading and things like that, but there's not a lot more to it, which is great. I love Christmas songs and I love worship, and I think we do a phenomenal job. But for this particular Christmas Eve morning, we do have a preaching element to it.
Yeah.
Albeit a different type of preaching element.
A little different.
Yeah, and so, it's a perfect type of, we've been talking for now a year about when we're going to do another Worship in the Round.
Ooh.
And
you think you want to do it Christmas Eve?
I was thinking we'd do it on Christmas Eve.
What about Christmas Eve?
Yeah, let's do that.
Hey, I had this idea.
Okay.
What if we did Worship in the Round on Christmas Eve?
Why don't we do it this year?
I don't know. Would that be a problem?
Well, you heard it here, folks. But we're just acting because we've been talking about this for a very long time. So
it's gonna happen.
It's gonna happen. If you were there for the first Worship in the Round, then you know that the way the room was set up, there was kind of a cross in the center, and everybody faced the center, hence the round.
In a round.
Yeah, and that will still be the case, except
one small change.
The cross will be a manger, and so that will be a really special kind of added difference to the morning that I'm very, very excited about. That's my dog.
Our third guest.
Bowie, no, stop. No, sir.
He's got things to say about Worship in the Round.
No. You want to come up here? Hold on. There we go. There he is. Bowie making his, actually not debut. He's been on here before. So we will have the manger in the center. Of course, 3 services to do this. It'll be very similar to the first one. And if you weren't there, the way we did it is a song followed by a portion of preaching, and then a song, and then preaching, and it went back and forth, and it was really a special time. And
it really was.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too, man. It's going to be just a very neat moment, I think, in general, and the way that we were able to last year, and a little bit this year at Good Friday.
Yeah,
we did worship in the half round of that day, and just the interwovenness of both the message and song is cool.
What are you doing? You just coming in here and crashing the podcast?
For our viewers at home who can't see or hear him,
Probably can't hear
Bowie's
him.
just doing.
There we go.
Doing stuff.
Good.
Which is great. But no, it's going to be great, man. And for me personally, I think I've talked about this before on our media. I am not the biggest fan of just like the Christmas season in general and of Christmas music in general. It is not my most favorite.
Yeah.
And I think for me personally, it's more of a like, I really love our week to week worship that we do as a church and how it like is very like it's focused on Jesus. And I think a lot of times, especially in the church in America in general, Christmas time can become more focused on like the gifts and Santa and tradition more than it does on the gospel.
Yep.
And I feel like doing a service like this for Christmas Eve lends itself more to us remembering what Christmas is actually about.
Well, and it's part of the reason why we want to do the Advent series in general.
Yeah.
We want to try to reclaim that season and capitalize on the season, but redirect, Yeah. And I think the advantages of people's interest towards Christmas really works in our favor if we do things the right way. What are you doing? What are you doing? Quit. This is not your show, bud.
It could be, though, if he kept on trying.
He is quite cute, though.
Yeah.
Look at him. All that to say, the songs that we're doing even they're very Christ-centered.
Oh, yeah.
And those are really the only songs of the Christmas season that really matter to me, unless we're talking about Michael Bublé's Christmas album,
You
and
do
then I
love
will
that.
give it a pass.
For me, since we're talking about Christmas albums that we love, and I don't know if you've even heard this, but all my brothers and sisters who grew up within the realm of Christendom, like I did, and went to all the youth groups, Reliant K's Christmas album, I want to say it's, Let It Snow, Let It Rain Dear. That's the name of the album.
Oh, man.
Oh, man.
All
That screams Christmas for me.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
It actually literally screams Christmas. There's
I bet it does. Yeah.
That they actually
There's some
scream.
screamy stuff.
Yeah.
Michael Bublé is just it's just class. It's just pure class.
What's your thoughts on Mariah Carey?
Moving on. Yeah, I think that Mariah Carey as a vocalist can do things that like normal human beings can't do. Her range is like really, really outrageous. I applaud and commend the idea that she has turned that godforsaken song into a international I don't even know what it is, spectacle.
It's become a joke now, which
It
is
has. It's like
kinda
taken
crazy.
on its own thing.
I don't know. In the very beginning of that song, there's that piano part. And I listen to it every year, and I think to myself, they had to have sped that up.
Yeah.
Because I'll sometimes go to the piano and try to play it, and it's like way too fast.
Yeah.
How do you even do that? I don't even know.
I do know that there is, if it's still out there, a version of it on maybe YouTube that's live, and it is the most horrendous sound. Like, clearly she doesn't have it anymore, or didn't have it that day.
Poor girl.
I don't know if there was something going on, but it was like a live thing, and it is like, whoa.
That happens.
That is not what the people
We're
came
all
to see.
humans.
We are. Sounds like she's been preaching for 3 services. That's see what I did there.
Speaking of 3
The Lord.
services, that's how many Christmas Eve services we're going to have.
Yes.
So it'll be at our times on Sunday morning, 8, 9:30, and 11.
Yep.
That'll be Christmas Eve that morning, which is very exciting.
It will be.
We're going to do Christmas Eve 3 times.
3 times. And for those of you traditionalists out there, Dr. Reeves will be there with the guitar,
Doing his thing.
singing his songs, leading us in a little candle lighting, and I love that. I think that's going to be really, and it's going to be especially special this year because of the round.
Yeah, man.
We're going to be lighting candles, and you're going to get to see all of it. And so, you, sir, are done.
I love
Hold
it,
on.
man. I love Bye, buddy.
Go on, play with your toy.
That was our guest, sponsored
Thank you.
by
Sponsored
whatever.
by Bowie. Yeah, sponsored by
Whatever dog
a little
food.
dog.
Yeah.
All that to say, definitely invite your friends and family.
Yeah.
This is such a wonderful morning for God's people to gather, to hear the gospel, to worship, to be reminded of the incarnation.
And what's really wonderful about the round, I will say as well, is one of the great things in Christian worship is hearing the church sing.
Yes.
And there is no better way to hear the
That
church
is
sing
so true.
than in the round, because you're literally singing at each other.
We heard so much feedback last year from church members that were like, I had no idea that our church sang that much. And we're like, every week, but you don't hear it because you're facing forward. Yeah. We're facing you, so we hear it so much better, and it's just an amazing thing. So I'm looking forward to it. Yeah. Again, perfect opportunity to invite friends, family to 8, 9:30, 11. Nothing on Christmas morning. And
except for time with your family.
Yeah. And then let's do this. A couple last-minute questions.
Ooh.
Totally unscripted.
Uh-oh.
Favorite Christmas song of all time?
Oh, man. Of all time. So I am a big fan of, so God Rest You Merry Gentlemen.
Oh, yeah.
In the Bleak Midwinter.
Mm-hmm.
Things like that.
Mm-hmm.
That, like, I love the old stuff.
It's good.
Honestly.
It's good.
I also am a huge fan of Trans-Siberian Orchestra.
Gosh, it's so good.
TSO, man.
Yes.
I went to probably 2 different concerts when I was back in high school with my good friend Isaac Seagraves. Shout out to you, Isaac. You're never going to watch this, but I love you. It was like probably one of my first real experiences with like that type of rock.
Yeah.
But every part of me loved it because you know what was popular whenever, and this was probably more in high school for you and when I was growing up, was that video of the house synchronized to that music.
Absolutely.
And it was Carol the Bells.
Yes.
And
Trans-Siberian Orchestra.
It's incredible.
It is.
And whenever I heard that growing up, I was like, I have to go see these guys, and I did.
And that was like in the early 2000s before like we had automated LED. Like the fact that they did that, they pulled that off.
It was like wizardry.
It was.
Yeah.
It was really cool.
And now it's like super easy.
Yeah.
I'm sure you can just get an iPhone app.
Yeah.
But it's like, back then it was awesome. So I'll never forget that night. We went to that concert. It was in Austin at the Longhorns basketball stadium. I don't remember what it is. And that was the tour that they had like the platforms that fell out of the ceiling.
Yes.
And we were up in the nosebleeds, but like out in front of us ran their lead guitars just going as much as they could.
So good.
Those are some of my favorites. What about you, man?
Yeah, so I think "Oh Holy Night" will always be my
Up there
favorite
on the
Christmas
list.
song.
Yeah.
It's just so good. There is a version of "O Come Emmanuel" that it's just called Emmanuel. It's it's totally instrumental, but I listen to it almost every day throughout the year. It's on my study playlist, and so I have it kind of always going. I love both of those songs a lot. I will say, in the spirit of like non-religious or sacred Christmas music, I love "It's Beginning to Look a Lot Like Christmas."
Everywhere you go.
It's just such a good song. It's such a happy, just kind of, I don't know, warm song. Okay, so favorite Christmas movie?
Oof. Man. Okay, I have a like love in my heart for the Muppets Christmas Carol.
Absolutely.
Like it's
classic.
Everything about it's wonderful. I love that. I love Jingle All the Way.
Yep.
I just want Arnold to yell at me about Turbo Man
every time,
every year. And then to round out the top 3, man, I love the original Santa Claus with Tim Allen.
Oh, that's such a good one.
Like it's so good. The subsequent films, maybe not as much.
Santa Claus 2's not bad.
2's good.
3's a little.
What are we doing?
It's a little zany. It's a little zany.
It's
Jack
like,
Frost.
Yeah, and
Martin Short.
Yeah. It's like I don't know what's happening.
Now, have you watched what is it, the TV show that's like the follow up to all that? Yeah, it came out I think last year, and I think we started watching it, and we I don't know, it may have been 2 years ago now. I don't remember, but it has Tim Allen in it, so it might be worth watching.
I will say, and this we talk about this every year, and I think we've talked about it in our podcast before, but I am a huge fan of Die Hard as well.
Die Hard is a Christmas movie.
Yeah.
I don't care what anyone says. It's absolutely a Christmas movie.
Would that make it in your top 3 Christmas
100%.
films?
100%. Yeah, I love Die Hard. For me, man, it's so difficult because I feel like there's a little bit more nostalgia for me for Home Alone 2.
Oh, man, those movies are just
Lost
so good.
in New York.
New York.
But I feel like Home Alone 1 might be a better movie.
Yeah.
Either way, like the Home Alone 1, 2 kind of franchise. I'm not going to include 3 in there because it was trash. But yeah, both of those really, really solid. I'm a huge fan of the OG animated Grinch.
Oh, yeah.
I love that one, and I had a combo pack VHS to date myself that had the Grinch.
Those were made with tapes. Kids.
It was the Grinch, and it was the Frosty the Snowman animated movie.
Yeah.
And it also had a like Rudolph like almost claymation thing.
Oh yeah.
I love that. That was good. I'm trying to think, is there another?
Well, the movie that you referenced this past Sunday,
A Christmas Story, it's so classic. Yeah, it's such a good movie.
I didn't really appreciate that until like I was much older.
Yeah.
Because I remember watching it as a kid and just kind of being like, this is boring.
Yeah, and there's a new one, like the new Christmas Story. I can't remember what it's called.
Yeah.
But it's like the new follow-up with all the original characters. And shout out Jennifer Clark, said it was really good, very nostalgic. So I'm planning on, that's on my list for this year as well.
Making it happen.
But yeah, absolutely. There's a Christmas episode of the late 90s I guess young adult series Roswell.
Oh yeah.
That takes place during Christmas. It's really good. That goes on the list for me as well. Yeah, but I will say Bruce Willis. You know, that is just a what's his name? I can't think of his name. It's horrible that I can't think of him.
Oh,
Snape.
Alan
Rickman.
Rickman.
Yeah. So good.
Yep.
So good. So. I'm trying to think. Is there anything else?
We would never watch that movie at all because we're pastors.
Okay.
So,
okay. Last question.
Okay.
Favorite Christmas coffee beverage?
Oof. Man.
It doesn't have to be coffee. I mean, we'll say like hot beverage.
I'm
so
so
cider,
basic.
apple cider.
You're gonna make me admit on air that I like something from a Starbucks, Derek.
Peppermint mocha.
I love me a good peppermint mocha.
Listen, you be you.
But
live your life.
I will say my thing is I get it the Frappuccino version.
Yes.
That's my favorite one this time of year.
Yeah.
So basically I like a shake from
There's nothing
Starbucks.
wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that.
Are you sure?
My brother in Christ, you are free.
I don't know. Some churches would kick me out.
No, well, not this one.
Because of I support the
Starbucks.
The Starbucks with the red cup.
Yeah, it's really difficult to answer that because I'm not a big like latte guy. There
cider
are some
is very good.
There are some I like, but man, a good apple cider with like just the right. I made some apple cider the other night, and I had a little bit of lime that I added. And some cinnamon sticks. Yeah, just give it a little bit of citrus. And then we topped it with some whipped cream and some pumpkin spice. Oh man, it was wonderful.
It was great.
But I do love Coffee Folk has a couple of seasonal drinks. Shout out Coffee Folk that is really good as well. But always oat or almond milk.
Oh,
yeah, I'm not a big dairy guy.
Yeah, you're not a big milk person.
No,
not
at all.
Don't enjoy the cows.
Not a big fan of the cows at all.
Well, this has been enlightening, sir.
It has indeed been very good. Yeah, we would love to have you come and be a part. If you're not in a Bible study, let me just say this too. This is a great time to plug in because the Bible studies are going to be using, like I said, the Advent packets to go along. Everything is going to tie together. I'll be preaching on different texts than what we're studying in the Bible studies, but they're both going to center on hope.
Yeah.
So
thematically, it's very tight.
It all ties together. And so I think it's just a really creative way to bring in a lot of really important elements and slow down and think about the importance of God coming in human flesh.
It's a gift you can give yourself. Life Bible study.
It's like he is in marketing or something. We hope to have you there. Thank you for watching this episode. And we will have, I'm sure, a extra special edition for January 24.
The next time we talk to you, it'll be next year.
Yeah.
Just think about that.
Let me mention one other thing. This is totally unscripted as well, but if you will, do pay attention to the Wednesday night classes starting in December as well for the bylaws. Mm-hmm. We are changing some of the bylaws. They're not major changes at all, so just for what it's worth. But I did mention this, I think, last month, but I want to just remind the people. Yeah. Important stuff. So
it's the new bylaws class. Bylaws.
It's not what it's called.
It's not what it's called.
Have a great rest of your week.
I salute you for making it this far.
We will see you next time. God bless.